What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Truzz the Bank podcast. Tomorrow, today is Wednesday, but tomorrow is Thursday. Tomorrow is the Hall of Fame game. Football season is officially back. We have Texans, we have Bears. Hopefully, we see some Caleb Williams. Hopefully, we see some Romo Dunze. Those are two of the most exciting players to watch, at least in college football last year. I loved both of them as prospects. I'm not going to lie. I don't think people know this about me, but I despise the Chicago Bears. I loved Justin Fields. The only reason I was rooting for the Chicago Bears, I was like, I love Fields. And then, of course, Fields also goes to another one of my most hated teams. And so I'm like, great. Now, what are we doing? Why can't my favorite players go to my favorite teams, or at least teams that I don't dislike? But it's going to be a lot of fun. Let us know in the comment section down below your favorite players that you're excited to watch for. But in today's episode, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're just getting the first segment. Check out the podcast, or each of the next few days, the other segments will be posted. We're going to be talking about wide receivers. We're going to be talking about training camp standouts. We're going to be talking about the offensive line. And then finally, we'll talk about some trades, because there's been some, not rumors, but suggestions, I guess, or like discussions about certain players potentially getting traded to the Baltimore Ravens. And we wanted to talk about that. So first off, let's jump right into it. Wide receiver position. We had a couple of questions on this. I always ask on Twitter, and I always ask on the YouTube community section. I always put out a post when we have recording days, just, hey, what are some topics, questions, players, things you want us to talk about? There were multiple people that asked about the wide receivers. So Joshua, when you're looking at these wide receivers, and we don't want to talk too much about Zay Flowers, but when you're looking at 2 through 4, Bateman, Nelly, Tez Walker, what is the biggest thing standing out to you? What's the biggest question mark or battle you're really looking out for?
I mean, honestly, I feel like Bateman and Tez Walker can't beat out Nelson Aguilar. The big thing for me with Bateman is the health. I mean, supposedly from the reports out of Owens Mills training camp, this has maybe been the healthiest little Rashad Bateman has been since he's been drafted here by the Ravens. Honestly, that's good news. I know recently this week, I think Tez Walker and also Deontay Hardy has been out of practice. Nothing has been disclosed in regards of why Rashad Bateman been missing practice, nor the other guys. But, hopefully it's nothing, too, dire or too,
I think I did read Bateman was muscle soreness, and someone tweeted at him or like sent him an Instagram message, and they were like, man, please tell me it's just you being sore. And then Bateman replied, and he was like, on my mama, it's just soreness. Don't worry about it, or something like that. He was like, don't worry, I'm not hurt. It's just I'm like a little bit sore. So that's good news on the Bateman front.
There it is. Then he's tired of not being able to play a full season. We all tired of not seeing him to his full potential. Because I mean, if you did watch Minnesota football, he was used in all different types of ways in all facets on the offensive side, and he was very productive. We've seen, many times in the purple and black in the Ravens uniform, when he is out there being utilized on the field, that he can be a yak guy. He can be that guy that gets us, those first downs. He can be a deep threat too. Our future GOAT just got to place the deep ball on him a little better. I'll say that. But Tez Walker, I mean, ever since he came in, we've heard, good things about him, since the rookie training camp, him in Tampa, him and, Nate Wiggins already had that, that battle test against them already in college. So being able to have that hard-working mentality, have that big frame, also have that speed, also just be able to be a learner and student of the game. I honestly, I see him beating out Nelson Aguilar. I mean, he has better hands than him. I mean, Nelson, I'm not taking away from Nelson Aguilar, but his hands ain't been the same. His hands ain't been the same. Yeah. He's had good moments, and he's had a lot of down moments. But right now, I think it is the time for the young men to step up on this opposite side of the ball. I feel like they're going to make it exciting. I feel like it's their time to be, who they are and, show why we drafted them. So I definitely feel like, those two guys can definitely beat out, Nelly.
Yeah. And I think that Nelly is someone where we brought him in last year, but we brought him in to be a vet, right? We don't need Nelly to be wide receiver 2. We don't need him to be wide receiver 3. If it happens, so be it. But I think the situations Nelly's going to be out there are things like goal line situations. He was very good for us
Mhm.
in the red zone and at the goal line on those underneath drag routes and quick slant patterns. And I think he'll be in on third downs, even though his hands aren't necessarily the best. He did have a drop. I want to say he dropped the first third down pass of the wild card game, or not the wild card game, the Ravens' first playoff game against the Texans. I think he dropped a pass on a third down. It was them or the Chiefs. He dropped a pass. I think it was against the Texans, and it was like, like, is this how this game is going to go? We're just going to be
Yeah.
dropping these passes on third down. But he is a vet. He's a smart football player. He knows how to get open. Lamar trusts him over the middle, trusts him underneath. But I think Tez Walker brings a different skill set, right? Tez Walker is, after, being drafted, I think the better comparison is young Nelson Aguilar, right? Someone who can be a true deep threat, as opposed to veteran Nelson Aguilar, who's lost a step, but is still a competent NFL wide receiver that could find a role on almost any offense and any wide receiver room. He's going to get snaps. So I think it'll be a situation where maybe Nelson Aguilar has more receptions, but we will be seeing Tez Walker because of his deep threat ability. He's fast. He can track the ball very well. He's very good with the ball in the air. He can make those big catches. And that is incredibly valuable in second and short situations. In the situations that we really didn't get to have last year because we didn't have Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is different than any running back in the NFL because you have to hit him early. Like, every player knows that. So they will sack the box when he's in there. And the play action with Derrick Henry works better than any other player's play action. And that is why A.J. Brown was able to develop so quickly in Tennessee, was he would run those crossers. And Ryan Tannehill would hit that hard play action, linebackers step up, and 15 yards down the field, he would hit A.J. Brown. And it felt like 5, maybe 7 times a year, we would see A.J. Brown just take a crosser to the house because the play action was just so good. Zay Flowers can do it. I think Tez Walker can do it, and Rashad Bateman can do it. That's not necessarily the role I see out of a guy like Nelson Aguilar. He's the underneath, right? We don't need him to be going across the middle of the field deep and getting behind those linebackers. But I think we're definitely going to see all these guys. And there are questions with Rashad Bateman. But at the same time, Rashad Bateman, when he is healthy, has shown he's very good. Like, he's not great by any means, but he's good, right? He's good, and that's fine. He has great separation, elite separation, and it's just whether or not Lamar Jackson is finding him with the football. If he finds him, if he's doing well at that, Rashad Bateman can be a 1,000-yard receiver when healthy. That's the other question, though. How many games is he playing? Because if this is another season of he only plays 8 games, that means in a lot of situations, our wide receiver 2 is probably going to be Nelson Aguilar. Wide receiver 3 is Tez Walker. That's going to make it much more difficult. And we can't necessarily get very upset if he does get injured, or at least upset at him. I think it's funny when people get mad at professional athletes for being hurt. Like, you don't think Rashad Bateman wants to be healthy? Like, I think he just loves getting injured. Like, that probably feels great. No, it sucks. You don't want to be hurt. You want to go out there and play football. So he wants to be out there. He wants to be healthy. And I think that the Ravens are going to try and get him the football a lot more because, Joshua, I think you would agree with this. bringing in Odell was good and bad. It was good because Odell was a good leader and he made some good plays for the Ravens, but also it felt like we were trying to force the ball to Odell too much.
I definitely would agree with that. I mean, honestly, some of the plays that Odell was getting, it would be different if Odell was younger, but we kind of have a savvy, fashion kind of guru, uh, Odell and Rashad Bateman. So when you see, so I mean, it like you said, it did do some good, and it also did some bad. Bad in the sense of maybe kind of starting Rashad Bateman's growth, but good in the sense of he was able to keep him healthy. He was able to learn from a vet, that had the same type of skill set. I think Odell was faster than Rashad in his younger 20s for sure. And maybe even a little bit more athletic if you want to take it that route too. Rashad, we still like you, we still love you, and we're glad to have you on the team. There's no attack at your skill or your game. I'm just calling it how I see it. You still got some time to bloom and make a miraculous catch. Like Odell did, and really stamp his name in the NFL. You still have your time, but no, I definitely agree with that. Once again, it's like if Rashad Bateman does go down, how confident are we feeling about Nelly being wide receiver number 2, depending how long Rashad Bateman's out? Because I mean, this wide receiver core is different from last year's core. Do you feel like this? I mean, we had to ask the real question: do we feel like this wide receiver core could possibly lead us to a Super Bowl if Rashad Bateman's out the picture?
I think if we properly utilize Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews, yes. Because if someone goes down with an injury, we need to see Isaiah Likely out wide or in the slot with Mark Andrews playing tight end. Or you could throw Mark in the slot and have Isaiah Likely, get on the line, whatever it is. But I think with the receivers we have right now, it's not necessary to have Isaiah Likely or Mark Andrews hop in the slot like consistently. But if someone goes down, we definitely need to see a lot more 2 tight end sets. Not necessarily 2 tight ends on the line, but just getting someone in the slot that is a very good, savvy route runner like Isaiah Likely, like Mark Andrews, especially if a guy like if Nelly goes down, in terms of veteran savviness and being able to find the soft spot in the zone, the 2 best are going to be Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. Right? Rashad Bateman's specialty is route running. It's not finding the soft spot in the zone. We don't know Tez Walker's strength. The assumption is it's athleticism, ball tracking, and ball skills. And then Zay Flowers, again, great in open field, great at gaining separation, but his skill isn't necessarily finding that soft spot. It's all about having that chemistry with Lamar Jackson so that he knows when you're going to sit. And I think he knows and understands how Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews want to play better than any other wide receiver on this team. So I feel very confident about this pass catching core. I think obviously with any team, it can get better. The real question is us sacrificing, one position for this going to be that much of a difference maker? And I don't necessarily think so, right? We thought about it. We definitely thought about it, I bet, in the draft room when we're sitting there. Hey, who do we draft? We could go corner or we could go wide receiver. There are a ton of wide receivers. Could go Lad McConkey, could have gone Keon Coleman. You could have gone Ricky Pearsall, Xavier Legette, ton of guys. But we liked Wiggins. And then, you look at the second round and you look at the third round. You're like, hey, we want offensive line rather than wide receiver. So we go Roger Rosengarten. You look at the third round and we're like, Adisa Isaac's still available. Fourth round, TJ Tampa. And we draft Tez Walker. We still got a player that was wildly productive, but had to miss the first few games of the season. And he looked very good playing with Drake May. We're going to see how he does with Lamar Jackson, but I'm very excited for this wide receiver core. I love watching Zay. and I love watching Rashad Bateman. And I think Tez Walker and Nelson Aguilar are a very good interchangeable set of players because they do different things. Goal line, probably using Aguilar, second and short, third and short. We might be able to start throwing in Tez Walker to go for those big plays. But